So Grace, before we sort of go into your singing and your performing, perhaps you could give us a little bit of background about yourself and your vision impairment as well.
Yeah, okay, so I lost my sight when I was sort of between 3 and 4 years old. Officially, it was when I was 4, but we think it might have been sort of going a bit before that, but kind of was too young to tell anyone that. So I had a brain tumour called craniopharyngioma, which crushed part of my optic nerve. So I have a really, really small amount of sight remaining. I couldn't give you a percentage or anything, but I mean, I can't read large print or anything like that. Yeah, that's basically how I lost my sight. And then I've had the tumours come back twice since. So it came back the first time in 2010 when I was 10. And I lost a tiny bit more sight then, but barely enough to notice. And then it also came back end of 2020 because nothing else was going wrong in 2020. So I had a brain tumor. So I've just had some radiotherapy for that. But as far as I can tell, that hasn't affected my sight.
Okay, and as you mentioned, it was quite early on, when you're about 3 or 4, that you started losing your sight, and because of that, you've been involved with VICTA from quite a young age as well. What are the types of activities and things that you've been on with VICTA? Because not just sort of as a young child, you've also been on a few sort of internationals as you've grown up as well.
Yeah. So when I was 16, 16, I went on one of the trips to Paris with some other people. I already knew quite a few other people there, so that made it extra nice. But yeah, that was the first international trip I did with VICTA.
How did you find it?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was really fun. And then I also did ICC in 2018, I think, in Croatia, which was absolutely amazing. Because as I went to many of the, I didn't do the activities too brilliantly, but I had a great time.
And that's the first one that I met you, and I was told beforehand about your singing and how good you were, but it was actually on the I think it was the final night or one of the final nights where
there was the I don't really, it wasn't really a talent show thing. I don't really know what it was.
But you absolutely blew everyone away, because we had all countries doing some sort of talent thing, whether it's singing or a little performance or whatever happens to be. But I think you'll be too modest to say how well it went. But I'm pretty sure you were the only one that got a standing ovation at the end, and it was amazing. So I suppose that's a good place to ask you a little bit about your singing. How did you get into it all? A general sort of love of music, I imagine.
So it's kind of weird. It's a few different things with me, because I don't come from a musical family at all, really. I mean, my parents do both actually have quite nice voices, although they wouldn't want me to say that. But I mean, they'll only ever sing on like karaoke, but they're not bad. But beyond that, there's literally no music in my family at all, kind of on either side, going back as far as any of us are aware. I think my great nan could play the piano, and that's literally it. So for me, for the piano, it was actually either a Braille or mobility teacher, I can't remember, when I was really, really young, recommended to my mum that I had piano lessons to improve my sense of touch. So I'm assuming it was for the Braille, but to be honest, like as a pianist now, I don't really know how much of a difference that would have made, because I think it's a very different kind of touch. But anyway, I just really, really loved the lessons as soon as I started having them. So that was when I was probably about 7. So obviously that's 14 years now that I've been playing. And then singing, I kind of always just did it whenever my mum would drive me to school in the morning. We'd always have Capital or Heart or something on, and I'd sort of know the words to every song. And people would find it really weird that because we listened to kind of mixed stations, it would be that if any old song came on that they might play on Heart, I knew all the words to that, but I also knew all of the sort of up-to-date stuff stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not quite so much like that anymore, because since I left primary school, I've had some friends. So, but yeah, that was definitely part of it at primary school. Was I went to a mainstream primary, and I didn't really have any friends. I got bullied a bit there. So I just kind of, all I did was play piano and sing.
And going back to how you started learning the piano, I imagine there were obviously a few adaptations to that would be different if you were teaching someone sighted the pianos. I know it was quite a long time ago, but can you remember any of those adaptations?
I can't really know. Because people have tried to teach me music braille a few times. Had a teacher when I was about 10, but she was just really not very good. She only come in once a week for half an hour, and she knew music braille in theory, but she knew absolutely nothing about music. So it was just it was like someone teaching you the Arabic alphabet without teaching you any words in Arabic or being able to speak it. So if that makes any sense, because she just couldn't put things in a way that I understood musically. And then a few years later, I had lessons again at a residential school for the visually impaired, but they gave me lessons with another girl who had been having lessons for years and knew how to read it and what to do, and I had absolutely no prior knowledge pretty much. So I stopped having the lessons pretty quick, and I just haven't tried to do it since then, really. It's just never appealed to me. I've always kind of, I think because I kind of had to do everything by ear so long, it is just easier for me now. I mean,
how you learn new music now when you're learning
yeah,
something new for the piano now?
So I don't tend to work out piano songs so much anymore, because when I work, it is as a singer pianist. So I'll play to accompany myself. I'm not playing sort of big classical pieces anymore. So it's a bit easier to work out than a 10-minute long piano solo. But yeah, so I'll just kind of work out the chords, and then from there I'll kind of make it my own a little bit more.
And when you're saying you're working out the chords, is that so that's all just by ear, just
by listening? Yeah.
Wow. And at some point you thought, well, I quite enjoying singing, I'm quite enjoying playing the piano, I'm gonna perform in front of others. When did you start thinking, oh, actually I want to perform in front of a crowd?
So I've always kind of had that. I mean, I entered Britain's Got Talent when I was like 9, but not actually playing piano, just singing. And I've entered it a few times and never got anywhere, so I gave up on that at about the age of 13. But yeah, I've kind of, whenever there's been like a school talent show or anything like that, I've always kind of taken part. But in terms of kind of doing it more for performance and kind of knowing that it's absolutely what I wanted to do, it was actually when I was 14. I go to a music festival every year called Stand and Call In, because it's really local to me. It's a really, really nice size festival. You know, there's still thousands of people there, but it's still nothing like Glastonbury or Reading or anything like that. It's quite family orientated still. And yeah, 2014 was the first year I went there. So obviously I was 14 years old, and they have a band there. They do like perform around the country, but they're called Rocky Oki, and it's basically a live rock band that does, like, they'll play songs and you can get up on stage and sing with them.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we just kind of stumbled into a tent that they were performing in. We had no idea what it was, and then kind of realized that they were getting people up, so we put my name down to do a song. And yeah, I just happened to be sort of the last person that got picked out to do it. And yeah, I think that was the first time that I really sort of realized that I was like a really good, that I was a singer, not just someone that could sing. I don't know. And yeah, so I've done that every year since, obviously apart from 2020. But yeah, I think so. Probably 14 was kind of the first time I mean, because when I was younger, it was always like, I want to be a pop star, I want to be a singer, but no one kind of, you're just kind of told that that's not a career choice. So I just was like, oh, well, you know, that's what I'd love to do, but I don't know, maybe I'll work with animals or be an author. Like, there are a few other things. But then, yeah, it was probably then that I just was sort of standing on stage and like this, just, you know, like having all the crowd cheering and stuff, and I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to do, and that's just kind of what I've gone for since.
It was obviously quite addictive, because you've gone on to do quite a few more performances, haven't you, at various different venues and places?
Yeah, so this summer especially has been really, really busy for me. There's a little festival near me called Rock at the Castle, and when I say a little festival, I do mean like just a 2-day long thing. No one stays over. It's just like some music and some food, basically. But they ran a few events, so I was up singing in a castle every few weeks, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, I do a lot of like pubs and bars and restaurants and stuff. That is my main kind of work. But yeah, over the summer I managed to get to quite a few sort of bigger performances things. There was a fundraiser for a charity called WWF, which was well, I have no idea what that stood for. It's a wildlife charity.
Yeah.
And they basically just rescue like injured animals. So they actually had with them on the day like a baby fox that the guy, it's just a guy and his son that they'd rescued, and you know, the charity just kind of pays for all the vet bills and stuff. And I sang there, and that was probably the best gig of my life, because I got to cuddle lots of animals. But yeah, it's been going pretty good.
And what's your plan for the future with your singing and performing?
So at the moment, I am in talks with people about to start recording my first EP. And
I'm just going to stop you there, Grace, because you just said you're going to record your first EP. I mean, how, going back to that person who said, oh, it's not going to be an option for you singing and performing in the future, and now you're recording your first EP, I think that's quite an impressive leap.
Oh yeah, it was primary school teacher was kind of the main culprit, my year 6 teacher. So I always have it's always quite satisfying, because I live right next to my primary school. Whenever I walk past it, just sort of have a look, and go like, oh, hopefully soon I'll shut you up. It's been over a decade, I'm not bitter at all. But yeah, so I mean, you say that, but kind of anyone can record an EP. It's just whether it'll be any good.
Well, I've heard you sing a few times now, and I have to say you are very good. So what's the plan with that? So you're recording at the moment, or you're about to start recording it?
So yeah, I haven't quite started yet. I did some recording over the summer, got 3 of the 4 songs I wanted done. But it was kind of 6 weeks after my radiotherapy, and really helpfully, none of the doctors have kind of said this to me, in that when I was having the actual radiotherapy, I was really, really well, really healthy. I didn't, you know, I felt a bit sicky sometimes, and I was a bit tired, but other than that, I really was okay. But they didn't say to me that it's quite common for, if you kind of have that experience, that 6 weeks or so after the treatment, all of the side effects will just hit you kind of at once. So I did a day of recording, came back the next day, and then just kind of was sitting there and felt like I'd been hit by a bus, and I was just absolutely dead on my feet. So I don't really like how the songs came out. So yeah, that's basically why I'm redoing it. And I'm yeah.
And what's the plans for releasing it, or getting it out there?
It'll be sort of Spotify, Apple Music, that kind of thing. And I need to look into that side of stuff a little bit more and make sure that I'm doing it all in the best way to kind of promote me, because I don't have, you know, I do acting as well when I have an agent for that, but I don't really have anything for my music. It is kind of all just like hearsay, and one venue will find out that I performed at a different venue and hear good things, and then they'll book me for another venue.
So anyone watching this, you're after a music agent as well, yeah?
I don't know. I do quite like the freedom of the kind of independent side of it, but yeah, I definitely need to find out about all that kind of stuff. But I've got quite a few friends who've done similar things. Sorry.
I didn't know about your acting as well. So you said you got an agent for that, so you must be taking it quite seriously then.
I've had an agent since I was about 11.
Oh, wow.
So it's, you know, when I was younger, it was just kind of this thing I was signed up for, but I never got any work. But I've had a few more things recently, nothing too huge, just a few sort of BBC things or awareness campaigns and stuff. So when I go to train stations, I quite often get recognized by train staff, which is really cringy because you want it to be for something really cool, but it's just that when TfL or any rail company do awareness training around disability and stuff, they always use me.
Well, I think that's probably, it's more purposeful and more impactful than say,
exactly.
a baked bean advert
I've
or
had
something
staff
like that.
come up to me at the train station, go, "Are you an actor?" "Oh, yes. What have you seen me in?" And they sort of go, "Oh, I just started training adverts." It's like, oh.
Well, I say better than a baked bean advert or something like that. So. I suppose finally to finish on then, like I say, thinking back to your primary school experience where you were told singing or possibly acting or is not for you. At VICTA, we've got a lot of young people that are very into their music and they're singing and performing and might have ambitions to do something very similar to what you're doing in the future. What might your advice be to those young people thinking, oh, I've been told that actually singing's not for me, or I'm thinking that or perhaps they don't have the confidence to necessarily pursue it? What might be your advice to them?
Yeah, I mean, the confidence side of it, has kind of never really been an issue for me. I think it's because I don't know, I've just always loved the whole, you know, I do acting as well. So I have kind of just always loved being on stage. I'm an attention seeker, what can I say? But I think in terms of the actual music, and if you've been told by people not to do it, the thing is you have to be aware of, you absolutely can. There's no reason that you can't, but you will have to work so hard, because it's all, unless you do go through the kind of agency side or they kind of try and get a label or whatever, which you can't do until you've put in all the hard work anyway, so it's kind of redundant. But it is just so much self-promotion, and it's, you know, I've spent like several hours of a day at once before just scrolling through Instagram and Facebook for every local pub, every local restaurant, every local venue, and called them and emailed them and given them all my details and stuff like that. And then it's, when you get booked, you always have to be on your absolute tip top, because as I said, it's all word of mouth. So if I turn up for something and I really half-ass it and don't do it well, then I've potentially lost out on another few gigs. So it's absolutely, yes, you can do it, but it has to be what you want to do completely, because
and the advice you're giving here, Grace, is good for any musician or aspiring actor or performer. Nothing that you said there has been impacted by your vision impairment. I suppose these pubs and venues are, you know, you haven't experienced any.
I think there is another element of that as well, in that venues may be a bit hesitant to book you sometimes.
And have you had that?
I've not had it like said to me, but there was definitely kind of a year when I was really struggling, and I just thought, like, without sounding extremely big-headed, I was just kind of like, I know I am good. Yeah. I know I'm really good at what I do, so why am I not getting any work?
Thank you very much for doing this video with us, Grace. I think it's going to be really helpful to lots of young people, VICTA, and hopefully others that take a bit of inspiration from it. And I think we'll stop recording before you have a coughing fit.
Thanks.
Thank you.